And on that note, allow me to say something that a lot of people are thinking in this town, but not too many people really want to acknowledge. Salaries in this town are too damn low. You guys who are complaining about having to close up shop partially or close up shop completely because of a lack of workforce, I don't feel sorry for you. I'm finding it very hard to be sympathetic. You just got to pay more. It's that simple. No workforce, you're not paying them enough. Where's the problem here? 663-1270. Am I missing something here? I was a business major in college. Those of you who know me, you know I'm not some namby-pamby, I'm not a left-winger, I'm not overly idealistic where economic matters are concerned. I understand a business is in business to turn a profit, and I'm cool with that. But if you can't find people, if you can't find the right people to work for you and stay there and give you the quality work that you need to get things done, there is an obvious solution. But for some reason, nobody wants to do it. Well, I won't say nobody. There are people in town who are doing it. So I can't say it's everybody, but certainly a lot of people. Here's the number, 663-1270. You tell me if you think I'm full of beans here, if I'm missing something. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. I would love very much to hear from you about this. Now, over the weekend, in what passes for our local newspaper, there was a big article about this. And you drive around town and you see a lot of signs of places they have closed down. They're closing up shop at least part of the time, or in some cases, especially with your seasonal places, they're closing early for the season because of a lack of workforce. Translation, they can't find enough people to keep the business going, to work for them. And there are several examples of this around town. You don't have to go far in this town to see what I'm talking about. One particular local restaurant said they used to have 28 full and part-time employees. Now there are only 15. And of course, they write it off to the death of the work ethic. Oh, these kids today, they don't want to work like they used to. Well, not for what you're paying them. No, I don't blame them a bit. See, the cost of living has gone up in this town. And I don't buy the notion, people say, well, if we do that, we're going to have to raise prices on our products. Well, I'd say that horse is pretty much already out of the barn. In the last 10 years living in this town, I've seen everything go through the roof, except salaries. Cost of living, gone up. Taxes, gone up. Salaries, pretty much at the same crappy level they were about 10, 12 years ago when I first got here. It seems to me the solution is right there in front of your face. So no, I don't feel a lot of sympathy for a lot of these businesses who claim that they have to pack up shop part or all of the time because they can't find enough people to hire. The solution is right there in front of your face. For years in this town, businesses, not all of them, but a lot of them have really dumped on their employees. I've had firsthand experience with this, not so much in the radio business. That's a whole different kettle of fish. I could tell you stories about my radio experiences in this town. Not so much here where I'm working now. It's a pretty good deal. But at a certain other station where I worked in town. But, I don't even want to bring that into the mix because that's a corporate thing. They run out of an office in another city in San Antonio, Texas. That's a whole different ballgame. I'm talking about the locally run and locally operated business operations, specifically in the city of Bismarck and the city of Mandan and the surrounding area. I've been between jobs several times in my radio career, and I've had to go and work for a living at other non-radio type jobs, usually clerical jobs or temp jobs. It kind of goes with the territory in my line of work. Every once in a while, you get unemployed for an extended period of time, and you do what you got to do to make a living. All right? Okay. So I know firsthand what's going on at a lot of these places we're talking about. For years in this town, businesses have been notorious for dumping on the employees with lousy salaries, shabby treatment, and the whole take it or leave it attitude. And it's interesting because now that their beloved free market is working to someone else's advantage, all of a sudden the old geezers who run a lot of these operations, all of a sudden they're no longer such big advocates of the free market. And they want to play the victim card. Now, I ain't buying it. You want to solve your workforce problem? You just pay people more and treat them better. If you can't pay them more, at least give them a little bit more respect. It does work. The people in this town, they don't want to do that. So you've got what you got. 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270. More conversation. Your calls coming up.
Right now, 66.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
You got people in this town who can't hire people to help them out with their business. They have a workforce problem, which is interesting because everywhere else on the planet or everywhere else in the country, unemployment is still higher than it should be. And we talk about the so-called economic miracle here. You know what I think about that. But the thing is, if you can't hire enough people, then the solution to me is quite obvious. It's quite simple. You got to pay them more. But no, we can't do that. That would show respect for employees, and that's definitely not the North Dakota way. Number here is 663-1270. 663-1270. According to North Dakota Job Service, typical starting wage for a restaurant cook in North Dakota, $8.24 per hour in 2013. The mean wage was $10.84 per hour. In Bismarck, a little bit higher, $9.11 starting and averaging out at $11.10. If you're a bartender, $9.21 per hour to start. Well, that's the mean wage. $9.89 in Bismarck. If you're a waitress, the numbers are $10.01 per hour statewide, $10.40 in Bismarck. And here's one local operator who says he has applicants demanding $15 per hour, whether or not they have experience, and he just can't afford it. So we work harder, he says. You know, it's the old thing, well, you kids, you got to learn respect. You got to, you're asking for too much money. So, well, the thing is this, it's quite simple. Look at the way the market is working. If you can't get enough people to work at the wages you're offering, then the wages, by definition, are too low. It's a simple matter of supply and demand. I don't want to hear this business about the work ethic and these kids today, get off my lawn. You're just making excuses. You just got to pay more. $15 per hour, maybe? Well, maybe not that much. In some cases, maybe, but not necessarily. There are other things you can offer an employee that will keep them around a little longer if they're good, like respect. Now, of course, the best way to show respect is with your money. But I realize that isn't always in the cards. But still, you can treat people like human beings. There are a lot of places, I've worked at places like this, you have too, I'm sure, where you may not be necessarily making the kind of money you want to make, but, you know, it's a cool place to work. Everybody treats you with dignity. You work hard, but you get the feeling that you are respected. Every once in a while, the boss will come to you and actually thank you for a job well done. And I got to say, you don't see a lot of that in this town. Not in the time I've been here. I got here in 2003. And based on my own personal experience and the experience of people close to me who I've talked to about this and their experiences, there's a lot of places in this town where they just don't respect you. The pay is not that great, but you can compensate for that if you show a little respect. But apparently, no. Apparently, that is just too much for some people in this town. They can't pay you, and they don't want to respect you. And you wonder why you can't get enough people to work and keep your business going. To me, the problem is right there in front of your face. To me, it's pretty obvious what the problem is. For years in this town, businesses have really dumped on the employees. It's always been, especially a few years ago when the economy was not what it is right now. When it was a hirer's market, if I can put it that way. And the attitude then was, well, this is what we're offering. It's not up for negotiation. You'll take it or you'll leave it. You'll take this salary and you'll put up with the way I want to treat you because that's how I want to treat you, and I'll treat you that way because I can, and you will put up with it and you will like it because you don't have a choice in the matter. Take it or leave it. And if you press them on the issue, they say, well, it's just the free market. That's the way the free market works. Well, surprise, surprise. All of a sudden, the free market, and by the way, I'm all in favor of the free market, but here, all of a sudden, the free market is working to the other guy's advantage. All of a sudden, the bottom rail is on top, so to speak. All of a sudden, the supply and demand factor is working to the advantage of the employees. And now that it is, those very same bosses in this town, all of a sudden, they want to play the victim card. Oh, we can't run a business in this town. People expect too much. They want something for nothing. No, I don't think people want something for nothing, but they do want a livable wage for their efforts. They want a wage that is commensurate with what the market can bear. And how do you know you're not paying enough? It's quite simple. If you can't hire enough people, if you can't keep enough people on staff, if the people you do get tend to be buttheads who don't get the job done, then the solution is quite simple. You got to pay more. You're paying less than what the market really requires you to pay. You got to be subject. You are. All you old coots out there who are big on the free market. Well, it's a door that swings both ways. And I'm all in favor of the free market. But again, it's good for the goose. It's good for the gander. You got to work it the other way, too. I mean, it's just natural that any business is going to try to, businessmen have always been greedy. That's human nature. And they're always going to try to get away with paying as little as they can get away with paying. Subject to the demands, the forces of the market. All of a sudden, the market is working. The market does work. It works like a son of a gun if you let it. Well, the market is working now. And it's working to the advantage of the people who are earning the paychecks. And now, all of a sudden, you got a bunch of people in this town who run businesses who are saying, oh, we can't run our business anymore. We need help. We can't. These kids, they want something for nothing. They want this and they want that. No, what they want is a reasonable wage set by the demands of the market. And that's not what you're giving them. Or failing that, at least stop treating them like they're something you scraped off your shoe last night when you walked in the door. Something that you wiped on the doormat when you walked in the house. It amazes me. I've done some temping in this town, and the temp people are very nice. They're very cooperative. But some of the people you wind up working for, I had a job when I was between radio jobs a few years ago. I had a gig at a certain local company that I won't mention them by name. I will say that I don't think they're in business in this town any longer, and good riddance. It was one of these places where it was a customer service place. Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. It was one of there's been a couple of them, right? Well, this was a customer service place, and I've never felt more like a piece of meat in my life. It really was not a pleasant place to work. The salary was meh, but again, what could have gone a long way is if they just treated us a little better. A little respect. Every once in a while, walk by, a little pat on the back. Hey, we appreciate the work you're doing. Hey, I get it here, That's one thing I really like about my current job. I'm not getting rich here, but I do have people who appreciate when I do the job right. I don't always do the job right. We all make mistakes. I screw up as much as anybody. But when you do the job right, you should expect to be treated in an appropriate manner. And unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of that in this town in my time living here. And I like it here. I like the people here by and large. I certainly like the terrain, the geography. I mean, my God, you drive out of town a half hour. It's beautiful out there. It's a beautiful country. It's a great place to live. What it's not right now is a great place to earn a living, unless, of course, you've got the skills specifically for the oil thing. And if you don't, then you wind up doing something else, a service industry or whatever else is out there. And as I have contended all along, the unemployment figures for North Dakota are very misleading because there's not a lot of unemployment out there, but there are a lot of people working at jobs that they're not crazy about. There's a lot of underemployment. I see a lot of very talented people in this town who are not being allowed to play to their strengths, and they're not being sufficiently compensated. And no, I don't see a conflict there at all. The bottom line is, even given that whole situation, there are still people in this environment who can't keep enough people on their payroll. Given the fact that even the better jobs in this town are generally not that great. If you're one of those people who can't keep enough people on your payroll to keep your business going, I understand it's a business. I understand it's not necessarily that simple a thing, but to be honest with you, it's really hard for me to feel any sympathy toward you in your situation. Now, maybe I'm missing something. Like I say, I'm not an idealist. I know it's a business world. You have to earn a living. You have to make a profit. I know how business works. But all I'm saying is that a lot of you guys need to learn how to be better business people. You have to think of your employees not as chattel, but as an investment. You treat them right, and to an extent that means more money, but not necessarily. You pay what you can. I understand that. But if you just treat them better, that will go a long way toward keeping more qualified people on your payroll. But apparently that's too big a price to pay for a lot of folks in this town. I just don't get it. It's common sense to me. What am I missing here? You tell me. 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. More conversation, your calls coming up. Love to hear from you.
Right now, 66.
You're never more than a few minutes from a weather update here on Super Talk 1270.
Well, all the little kiddies are back in school, and that's a cool thing. And you may have heard about this referendum that's going to be on the ballot in November to try to move all the back-to-school dates to after Labor Day. And this is going on not just in North Dakota, but in a lot of places, and I'm all in favor of it. School should start after Labor Day. Let the summer be the summer, especially the tail end of the summer, especially with the weather patterns we have tended to have here. Beginning of the summer, it's usually a little kind of messy anyway. And I realize you got your, 188 days you got to get in. Well, let's have school. School should let out in mid-June and start back the Wednesday or Thursday after Labor Day. That's what I think. Number here is 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. Let me pull this up here. Let me pull this up. We have here it is. The Start North Dakota School After Labor Day. There's a page up and running on Facebook. If you have Facebook, just write in in the search box, write, ND School Labor Day. It should pop it right up for you. And it's a campaign to just that, to require the public school system in North Dakota to start school, I would say the Wednesday or Thursday, the week of Labor Day. So in other words, today or tomorrow, if it were happening this year, which it's not, obviously, some schools are starting this week, and that's good. But all the schools, get them on the same page and get them all starting after Labor Day. I'm all in favor of that. I think that's a great idea for a couple of reasons. Now, it's interesting. Another state is trying to do the same thing. The state of Maryland, home of the birthplace of the Indianapolis Colts, Maryland. The state comptroller in Maryland has kicked off a petition drive to collect signatures. We've already got the signatures here, I understand. So it is going to be on the ballot in November. They're still trying to get it going in Maryland. They want signatures. They believe that the public schools there should begin after Labor Day. Now, why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you with a twinkle in my eye. Again, quoting directly here from the copy of the Maryland petition, I think it applies here. In addition to the increase in tens of millions in direct economic activity for Maryland, starting school after Labor Day will bolster small businesses that rely on seasonal workers. You guys are saying you're understaffed in the workforce. Well, one area where I think there is a legitimate gripe is the fact that a lot of kids who work for these seasonal places like Dairy Queen or whatever, they have to quit in mid-August so they can get ready and go back to school. And that's a pretty legitimate gripe, I think, right there in that case. And what's happening is if you start school after Labor Day, then these small operations that do rely on the seasonal workforce, it's going to give them a little bit of a boost. It's more wages for young people, and it will also provide families with another week of quality time together. And again, given the way the climate seems to play out here, I guess it's a question of, on which end of it do you want to have school be out of session? At the beginning of summer or the end of summer? And I think in our case especially, it seems to lean toward the latter. Let's go ahead and keep school in session through the middle of June, then let the kids out. Because Memorial Day, it's a great weekend. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year, but, you're still just kind of getting revved up. Labor Day, by the end of summer, you want that last weekend of summer where you can really have a good time, just one last big party just to, keep things going. And so what I'm saying is Labor Day, let's put school back in session after Labor Day. I guess what I'm saying is that I would endorse. I would say, yes, by all means, I am in favor of this particular requisition on the November ballot. So vote yes. Let me double check that. November ballot, yes. They're saying to vote yes on, I don't know what the number of the referendum is going to be. We'll find that out soon enough. But basically what you want to do, what I would recommend is you want to vote in favor of having school start up again after Labor Day. I think that's a great idea. Now, I didn't grow up here. I grew up on the East Coast, and I must admit that, my own personal bias comes into play here because when I was a kid, school let out in mid-May. School let out in mid-June. Now, in a lot of places here, it lets out in mid-May, but school let out in mid-June, and we all came back to school after Labor Day. So we had that one last great Labor Day weekend. In my case, we had a beach, not Beach, North Dakota, but an actual beach. Hey, beaches are cool. That's cool. It's a cool town, Well, let's say wherever you go, but you come back the day after Labor Day, and then you have a day or two to rest up, and then you start up school again. I think it's a great idea. I really do. And I like the idea of getting the entire public school system on the same page. I've never got into this whole thing. I noticed that when I started back to college out here. You start back to college, The fall semester starts in the middle of August. How weird is that? I just can't handle that. That's just weird to me. August is the summertime. The fall is, September, Labor Day. It's a psychological thing, I realize, but psychology is not something you should underestimate. And going back to school when technically it's still the high point of summer and the dog days of August, that just never sat right with me. All right? Anyway, now, I suppose there are folks who feel differently about that. If you do, I'd like to hear from you. I mean, there must be a reason they do it the way they do it. I don't know if it's because it coincided with the old farming schedules, when to plow and all that. But seriously, I'd like to get your thoughts on it as well. Your comments are welcome here. 663-1270. You tell me. You tell me if you're with me on this. If you don't think it's a good idea to start school after Labor Day, let the summer be the summer. And on that note, let's see what's coming up here. Oh, we got the powwow coming up this weekend, of course. And I haven't been to the powwow in several years. I might just duck on over there this particular weekend. Usually my weekends are kind of screwy schedule-wise for a lot of reasons. But I might actually duck over to the powwow for a little bit. The only problem is my wife is not going to be able to go because of her work schedule. And generally, if my wife can't go, I don't see any point in me going. But nonetheless, I might try to get over there this weekend. Now, I will say this about the powwow, okay? The last time I went to the powwow, it's been a few years. And it's not because I don't enjoy the powwow. But it has more to do with my scheduling issues. But I did notice the last time I went to the powwow, it was a few years ago, I've noticed something about oh boy, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble here. There is an attitude among a lot of the folks working the little kiosks and the little, the people who sell the stuff at the powwow. There is a little bit of an attitude there. Dare I say it's sort of a, not everybody, but again, a lot of people, there seems to be an attitude of, bleep you, give us your money. I'm just saying. Last time I was there, I got that vibe, and that was a few years ago. Maybe it's different now. I certainly hope so. But I'm just saying, last time I went was 7 or 8 years ago, and I definitely got that vibe at the time. Like, here comes another one. Yeah, give us your money and go away. Yeah, here, we'll give you a dream. Get out of here. Go away. We don't want you here. We want your money. You get out of here. I understand. I'm certainly not unsympathetic to the feelings that a lot of people in the Native American community may have, and I'm not going to overblow it because I don't want to sound like I'm patronizing here, but it just seemed to me the last time I went that there was kind of an attitude like that. I'm just saying. You think that's a terrible thing? Well, I'm sorry, but like I said, that was the feeling I got. Number here is 663-1270, 663-1270. Jim Walsh here on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. The other thing we were talking about earlier this hour, in case you're just checking in, all these businesses around the Bismarck Mandan area that are closing up shop, in some cases, they are closed for, like seasonal places, they're closed for the season now, or closing up during the week or modifying their hours. They're not open as many hours, and they're saying it's because of the issue with finding enough people for the workforce. No workforce. Closed, no workforce. Well, it seems to me the way the market works, and being familiar with the basic principles of economics, supply and demand. If you're running a business in this town, and you can't find enough qualified people to work for you, there is an obvious answer. The obvious answer is that the market is dictating that you offer them more money. It's not even a matter of doing it out of the goodness of your heart. It's a matter of what the market will bear. If you can't keep enough people on staff, the message the market is telling you, the message they are sending you, is that you got to pay more. Or at the very least, treat your people a lot better than a lot of the businesses in town are treating their people. This town is notorious for that. I can't tell you how many people I talk to who have worked in this town for years who will tell you, and it's no different now. They'll tell you they work for these places, that, the cost of living has gone up, but the salaries are still lousy. But they can live with that if only people would treat them with respect on the job, and they're not getting that. Apparently that's too much to ask of some bosses in this town, that they actually treat their employees like real human beings and not just something they accidentally stepped in the night before and just now getting around to scraping off their shoe. Supertalk 1270, supertalk1270.com. Jim Walsh with more conversation. Your calls coming up.